So we've been talking about Minneapolis and Portland all afternoon. And one thing I didn't get to was now that Renee Good has died, the protesters who have been harassing ICE for days are treating it like she's George Floyd. I mean, like, this is just a clear example in their view of police brutality. And, you know, every sane, passionate or compassionate person would see her as the obvious victim who didn't ask for this. And you get this from one of the protesters. This is via the Daily Wire's Brecca Stoll, SOT 12.
I was like, I don't know if it's the right thing to do. It feels kind of wrong being here in some way. I don't know why.
And why do you think, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know, like, where that stems from. Like, I mean, part of it is being like a white woman that I'm privileged and I have a lot of privilege. So I feel like white tears are not always something that's helpful or necessary when black and brown people have been experiencing this for a long time. This isn't new for them. And so,
Oh my God.
I don't know if that makes any sense in that way.
I'm here, and I'm crying, but I feel guilty about my tears because I'm white. And this doesn't even involve anybody who's black at all or Hispanic. It's all whites. The shooter, the cop who shot her is white. The woman who died is white. Her wife was white. This is every white, and white. But a white woman's not allowed to shed white tears, period, Link, because black and brown people have gone through this more times than white people have.
No, they're definitely trying to make Renee the next George Floyd. You can see that with Tim Walz. And I think it's perfect for Tim Walz because he allowed businesses to be burnt to the ground during George Floyd. In fact, I think his wife talked about how they could smell tires burning outside and it really, coaxed them to sleep. We can smell tires burning outside. Then Jacob Fry.
Yeah, she said she used to put down her windows or lift up her windows so she could smell it.
Right. And then you have Jacob Fry, who is kneeling at George Floyd's casket. So they're trying to do this. But what people can't forget, and I've been trying to raise this on social media, this is a gift to Tim Walz. He won't admit this publicly, but in my opinion, this is a big gift for Tim Walz, and he's probably happy that this happened because it's moving the news cycle off of his massive Somali fraud scandal. Look how quickly the news cycle moved on to Renee. So I think Tim Walz is probably happy about this, but we're going to have to get back to the fraud scandal. One thing I also say is this. If you're driving and someone tells you to stop their car, right? If a federal agent tries to stop and talk to you, do not try to ram into them with your Honda Pilot, right? For me, I follow the rules. But what we've seen with these Democrats for years is they're so used to being let off the hook by leftist liberal judges. They're used to having no consequences. There'll be, pallets of bricks left out for them at these protests just willy-nilly. And so they're not ever used to having consequences. And unfortunately, in this situation, she had consequences. Nobody wanted to see her get shot. Nobody wanted to see her die. But when you're using your car as a weapon, things are going to happen, right? You stalked this guy, you rammed him, and it went down.
And yet the media continues to look at this and say, what we're seeing here is she was in the right. That's what this shows. We saw that with Jimmy Kimmel last night. Thank God. Thank God there's a video that shows us as Rachel Maddow. Like, obviously, the video shows that the cop was in the wrong. And then thank goodness for Vice President J.D. Vance, who went to the White House press briefing room yesterday, got up in front of the lectern, and let him have it. Here's SOT 9.
When I was actually walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job.
Cue all the media saying he made that up. None of that is verifiable. She wasn't part of a network. See her mother, her mom, who says she was really great and wasn't part of a network. Well, I've got reporting from the New York Post quoting people at her woke school who say she was.
No, what's so funny, watching that clip, what comes to mind for me is it's so nice having a president, a vice president, a secretary of state, an entire administration that can form coherent sentences, because for the last 4 years, could you imagine Kamala even getting up there to do a presser and take questions that aren't vetted? Could you imagine Joe Biden getting up to take questions? They would give him note cards with people's pictures and names and biographies and the questions written out for him. So when I saw JD Vance at the podium, we can talk about the content of what he said next, but I was just so happy to see a vice president who wasn't 3 sheets to the wind by 12 in the afternoon and could actually talk and form coherent sentences. So that was great. I'll also say this, stop vilifying and demonizing law enforcement, but this is the whole narrative on the left, right? They always have this victim mentality. They vilify men and women in uniform, vilify people who serve our country. You see that with Jimmy Kimmel. Maybe we can talk about him in a second, but it's this constant vilification of people who are out there enforcing laws. I'm sorry, Democrats. Let me break it to you how the country works. I haven't been on earth that long, but I can break it down for you. Elections have consequences. If you guys don't like the deportations, if you don't like what ICE is doing, take it to the ballot box. You know what I'm saying? Kamala Harris lost every single swing state, the House, the Senate, the popular vote, electoral college, the list goes on. So when the Democrats are crying and whining about this, this is what we voted for. President Trump for 10 years has run on mass deportations. We're going to do the wall. We're going to get criminals out of the country. We're going to be tough about it, and we're going to move fast and get things done. So when the election came around and he won overwhelmingly, you guys are going, oh, we can't believe he's out there doing it. Take it to the ballot box. Stop using your cars as weapons. Stop stalking law enforcement. Stop doxing them. This poor man who was in an unfortunate situation and did what he thought he had to do in self-defense, they've already found his name, where he lives, his family. God bless all of them. But these leftists will continue to vilify law enforcement, unfortunately, I think, from here on out until 2028.
You're totally right. And by the way, it was a very good point you made about Tim Walz, because look, he may be dodging responsibility, or at least the limelight right now, because all eyes are focused on ICE. But this is coming back. This is definitely coming back. ICE did not back off one bit. Their officers are all still there investigating the fraud and arresting illegals. And just yesterday, we got an announcement from Secretary Bessent saying if you are on public assistance, you can no longer wire money out of the United States, which is clearly aimed directly at these Somalis in Minneapolis who, per reporting from City Journal and County Highway and others, have been wiring money overseas. In part, it is believed to fund the al-Shabaab terrorist network. And Secretary Bessent just put the kibosh on that. And Tim Walz is not going to escape responsibility for this.
No, Tim Walz wants to obfuscate, hide the truth. He does not want to address this Somali scandal. And I'm almost thinking, I'm the least conspiratorial person you will ever find, Megyn. But when I look at the last election, right, Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz out of the blue. She needed Pennsylvania. She didn't choose the guy from Pennsylvania. She chose this clown, Mr. Jazz Hands from Minnesota. So she chooses him, right? And all of their vetting, you're telling me the DNC's vetting, Kamala Harris's vetting, PR, all of that, private investigators, you guys didn't know about any of this fraud, even though people in Minnesota said they've known about it for years. There have been rumors for years. And I can tell you, Megyn, I have friends all across the political spectrum, left, right, center, libertarian, whatever. This is bringing people together. I mean, I had a transgender classmate from NYU who lives in California text me paragraphs about how pissed she was about the Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota, because we work hard, we pay our taxes, we get up and work, we sit here and work and sell our masa chips every day and cowboy colostrum and work. We don't want our tax dollars going to Somalians who are funding terrorism. Call me crazy. And it's clear we're paying way too much in taxes if $8, $10, $12 billion by some of these estimates is going to terrorist organizations and Somalians and daycares with no children. So this is going to bring people together. I think fraud If Republicans get their act together in the midterms, they can run on this fraud. I mean, there's something here for everybody here. Healthcare fraud, SNAP program has a lot of fraud. They didn't want to turn over their scrolls either. You've got Somalian fraud. You've got people rigging things. I think Republicans can run on this, run on most favored nations, run on getting healthcare costs down, run on securing the border, and ram this fraud narrative home. Because if the Republicans lose in the midterms, you don't think there's going to be even worse fraud? You don't think there's going to be worse fraud?
I have to
It's only
say,
gonna get worse.
I think it's great that the DOJ now has a new fraud ambassador, fraud czar.
I'll do it.
Who's going to be looking at this. But that person also needs to look into disability fraud, because I've covered so many cases where people, they claim disability. It's bullshit. They retire with something like, 3/4 of their salary, and it's all made up. Then you see them running a marathon. You see them doing like a triathlon. It's ridiculous. And that's another fertile area to figure out who's defrauding us out of our hard-earned dollars. A new year means new financial goals, like making sure your savings are secure and diversified. Will this be the year you decide to talk to someone from Birch Gold Group? They use an educational approach with a deep understanding of macroeconomics. There are forces pushing the dollar lower and gold higher, which is why they believe every American should own physical gold. So until January 30th, until January 30th. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, you just text MK to the number 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for a rebate of up to $10,000. Consider making right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before January 30th. Text MK to the number 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Again, text MK to 989898. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.